so I think it's important that I give it before Patrick's talk, which comes immediately after lunch now.
Okay.
Right?
Yes.
We set that up. So this is just kind of framing organization with partners from my IEEE CSI-centric point of view. There's some relationships that need to be preserved at that level, and I'm just trying to visualize how that's going to work out in the future when you guys get into all this new stuff, because there is a bifurcation point. So this is just a very short few slides on these three topics. This slide I showed you already, and it's our own internal slide about how we're going to manage ourselves, and I think Patrick and Ryan have been talking about this piece right here. And here's our PES, CSI, staff support, NPSS, and other societies, and IEEE, and there's a foundation. So all of this is part of the fundraising mechanism for everything we're trying to do. So the part that really needs to be developed is this connection here. We have part of it developed, but we don't have much money in it. We don't have a scheme yet. This is the reason Patrick got into this, is to work on this, what I call the management, marketing, and finance committee that will figure out these connections and get the troops on the ground to do the fundraising. And the reason NPSS is on here showing the date of this subcommittee is because I proposed this to NPSS just last week when we had a meeting. And it's to get them, I've so far been a personal fundraiser within NPSS, and they've given a lot of money. And I'm kind of tired, and there's like 40 people on the executive committee, and I'm kind of tired of being the only one that's always opening my mouth and saying, hey, how about some more dough? Give me your dough. And so what I've asked for is that the president appoint a committee to work with me on getting to know the kinds of projects we're talking about and knowing what we're proposing to do, and deciding how much money they're going to commit to the fund, and hopefully do it on a continuing year-by-year basis at a significant level for one society. And then behind this are 38 other societies that we can go up on within IEEE. I don't expect them to be giving as much as the highly committed ones already, but there's a lot of money out there. This is, I mentioned the other day, this little society of ours is 3,000 members, PES is 30,000 members. Our little society's got $10 million in the bank. I don't think PES has $10 million in the bank.
Our revenue is about $15 million a year.
Your revenue is $15 million? So then I expect
but we do a lot of things.
Want to say that again?
We do a lot of things.
I know you do a lot of things, but this is one of the very important things that you're doing, and you're our guy, so.
I'm one guy.
There are two, no, wait a minute, there's two VPs. One of them sitting here.
Yeah.
His name is this guy.
Yeah.
I mean, boy, you guys, you gotta got through.
Plus you're in charge of image. We can help you.
Where's that click?
Ray, you think about your kind of vision of like $2 million a year, right?
That was the starter kit, yeah.
But if you just took your IEEE NPSS members and said, all right, well, each person in our group will kick in $30.
Yeah.
That's $100,000 from NPSS.
Yeah.
If that was like a standard, almost $30 or 25, it's nothing. Then you take PES, it has how many members?
30,000.
30,000 members, kick in $30.
It's only $20 million.
Imagine the change the IEEE would do if you had your membership kicking in. You know.
Yeah, well, and we got, if you want to go places, we have 400,000 members. So, yeah, there's a lot of potential there. I'm going to push a button, I don't know what's going to happen. The wrong thing.
The wrong.
That's the wrong button.
The left button.
Okay, so then, I never got around to showing what happens next. Here's a little more detail, not much more detail, but here's this IEEE Foundation corporate private fund support, IEEE Societies fund support. Man, we should have money coming out of our ears here. And then here are the potential partners on all the continents of the world. Okay, so that's one kind of partnership. I go to a detail of that in just a second, but the main point of this slide is there's sort of confusion about what do we have to do. Well, I think we've talked through a lot of this already, that your new independent manufacturer on the block is sitting down here, and he's sitting over there also. When we go to look at partnerships in this room with y'all, I mean, I think the people we've heard from so far are already well situated to take on partnership with us and do things, because you've got the whole mentality and the vision that we were looking for and that we were hoping to find amongst people. I think that's fairly rare, actually, to find that among NGOs. And that's exciting for everybody to think about that partnership. So, but somebody may come along who feels like, okay, I want to be a lead partner, but I don't have a technical partner built in already, or I don't have the wherewithal to take on a manufacturing job, especially in the beginning. So one of the big hopes is that if, when Paul gets cranked up to the point where he can produce a kitted system to send off, then we've got a supplier within the collaboration already. You don't have to go through that pain that we went through already over the last 2.5 years. It's done. And that's not to say you want exactly the thing we got. It doesn't say we can't do different pieces of it, and whatever way makes a lot of sense. It just means that you got a big leg up on where we were 2 years ago. So in that sense, things can fast track. And that was the vision of why we're here, is we think things can fast track. Okay, so here we are in stage one, and that is, we're in this position of, we need some kind of, as we go into this in more depth and more people, more organizations, we need some formality at the IEEE level where we're going to be shuttling a lot of money around. There's got to be a procedure, there's got to be accountability, all the usual stuff. There's got to be people appointed to make sure, from the foundation point of view, it's pretty straightforward right now. We have it established already. They have rules. I've had grants from them already. I know how they work. It's pretty much statement of work. Here's what we're going to do with your money, and then at the end you get a report to tell them what you did. And there's some monitoring along the way. There's some reporting of progress reports, but basically it's pretty simple. And I expect this to be pretty simple because we've eliminated the big, for this, we're talking this specific project, we've eliminated a huge amount of the upfront work already, which was the development work, where we are scrambling around like crazy, being everybody, being everything in the process. And that's a huge piece of work that we did for the past 2 years. So that's, boy, am I glad to see that done, passed off to the guys that are going to take it to the next phase. That's wonderful, because now we can really concentrate on spreading out and servicing more at the higher level and raising the money to do it. And I think we're well situated to do that. But we've got to be careful about one thing, which is, so far, the formality has been between nonprofits. IEEE is a nonprofit. Serona Care is a nonprofit. VHSS, a nonprofit, Torchbearer is a nonprofit. We're not dealing with a for-profit company, we're dealing with nonprofits. So that's ideal. We don't have complexities from the standpoint of giving money out of IEEE to a for-profit, where that gets really uncomfortable really quickly, because there's vested interest within any for-profit company. There's a vested interest. Now ours may be a lot different because we have a totally different vision than the normal for-profits, I think. At any rate, this is a nice place to be because it's nice and clean. And that's where we're going to do the main shoveling of funding, is in this space right here. Meanwhile, we're asking you all to do the creation of a for-profit. So just taking some names, random names of some NGOs, for example, we may end up with this arrangement. Lots of TBDs down here at the bottom, but if things worked out here with everyone, we would see this developing in a very short time. But I don't care, you're sort of independently working over here while we're working this angle, and there's a nice buffer still with the nonprofit in place. So that's our formality, is we want to deal in terms of the money flow mainly with this right here, and we don't get into the complexity of sending money directly to a for-profit. So that's all
I think it's going to be important to articulate the goals of the for-profit component and how that profit is used.
Oh, sure.
You know, that's going to
No,
have to be part of the.
I actually think
That's part of my sales job.
Right.
But you've got to deal with the nonprofits, because as soon as you step on into the for-profits and say, okay, you're the for-profit entity, you need to do X, Y, and Z with your profits, or your structuring your profits. You blow it up. Because now you've totally, because the investors investing in Serona Haiti, where the debt providers are going to look for something different than the guys going for sunless and torchbearers.
I'm coming to that statement. So what we need right now is something, I think, fairly informal. It looks more like an MOU. It's like we're both making pledges about this long-term vision, and we're hooking up with people who share that vision. That's what we're doing. So at the seed funding, we've got two things we're doing. We're raising seed funds, and we're providing technical support long-term, not just short-term, but long-term. And that's where the whole volunteer business comes in. And as the NGO executes the pilot as a nonprofit, it can be forming its for-profit for the future. And you know, the progress in that is important to us at the beginning to see that's happening. So it's all part of reporting back to my bosses that, yeah, this is going smoothly and it's happening, and we're totally on track to keep moving ahead with this. If something hits a brick wall, we may say, oh, well, let's wait a while and see what happens. Okay, so that part's nice and clean. It's all building, and you're making the plans. Everybody's got the same set of problems, and you're obviously all very experienced and know what you're doing. On completion of the pilot nonprofit, the nonprofit owns the units. That is, they pass out of our hands, and when they get on that boat, they're yours. They belong to you. We gave them away to the nonprofit. So, and then in parallel with that, this other entity is developing, and on completion of that, and because when you go to do your next round of fundraising, you've got to be a for-profit. You've got to be the new owner of the systems that were built for the nonprofit. So that passes over to the for-profit, and it has done so now with Serona Haiti. The model is there, and now they are immediately able to use that that equity, that seed fund equity as a lever to get the first serious funding going from other than IEEE, and that's happening. So that's the whole process that we want to see going. If this fails at the nonprofit stage, CSI can help. If it's a total blow up, the worst case that could happen is we say, well, okay, it's not going to work here. We can help you figure out a new scheme where it will work, or if it's if some critical key person gets run over by the bus and you really feel you can't go on with it, that's a whole different set of problems. I don't really think that's going to be a problem. In general, corporations have responsible backup plans for all key members, and this should not happen. This should just keep going. But heaven forbid if this man here should get either run over by or thrown under a bus by somebody that doesn't like you, it will go on. Right?
That's our prayer. And those are plans.
That's the plan. It will go on. Okay, so then what? So those are the main things. Now, what about agreements here at seed funding? Well, this is a repetition, but I think what do we need for formal agreements? And again, I say this MOU at the seed funding stage, that MOU, well, I said it ends, but it doesn't really end. It gets a little more complicated because we still want to be available to the for-profit. You're going to run into technical problems, so you have technical variants and so on that you want to build. We want to be available for that. So what's the scheme for making that a little more comfortable? Technically, we can have no, at the for-profit stage, we can't have any official involvement. We're still the pro bono source of expertise, but we're not partners, we're not employees. We don't want to be that. I mean, it doesn't mean that you might hire somebody that you know from this group and make them a part of your company, that's fine. But we don't want, as a committee, as an initiatives committee, we don't want to be those people. We want to be apart from them. We want to be able to look at all of you equally and deal with you all openly and pretty much, excuse me, the same way. However, I thought of a scheme that would be kind of nice to see, and that is, suppose you would just agree amongst yourselves, nothing to do with us, but to build a consortium of your own that would, and I think this really would strengthen everything if you did this formally. We were doing it informally in this room right now, but if you did that formally, then you look a whole lot stronger to us, to the next people you go to ask for funds, because you can say, here's the aggregate of what's going on between us, and we're all working together.
You can add that, with like the fundraising, the for-profit fundraising mode, if you're just that aggregator, it's you look a lot more attractive.
Right. Yeah, not only that, your success reflects through the whole group. You can say, aha, one of our members just got, carbon credit approval. I mean, that's a big deal.
How'd you do that?
Yeah.
Can we not take your carbon credit? There must be other carbon credits.
Carbon credits, we market them through.
Right, I'll just mark it aggregated carbon credit.
Yes, it increases the value of our carbon credits when there's more. Hard to sell 5 carbon credits, easy to sell 5 million.
Yeah. So anyway, then down at this technical support, there's this continuation of support at which either point you want to walk into, because now you've got a representative group here that we can deal with as you're basically another nonprofit layer on top of your for-profit companies. It's very much like a group I belong to. It's a standards group. It's called a PCI, Industrial Computer Manufacturers Group. It's got 250 companies in it. And we're a university and we're members for developing and extending their standards for our purposes. And it's all nonprofit, it's all open source, it's all the nice things you want to hear. So I highly recommend it.
So on that slide, Ray,
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think of it in terms of other examples that exist. You gave one. IDE, International Development Enterprises, is headquartered in Denver. It provides ongoing technical support, R&D, for a whole long list of for-profit entrepreneurial enterprises in 20 countries, which each have their own name. They're each branded in a Haitian or a Bangladeshi kind of way. They need to make profit to subsist, but all of them derive benefit from relating to IDE and its research and development and its global fundraising, say from Gates. Is that what you
Well, it's a
imagine?
little different model because I think you said yesterday that IDE was, most of its money is basically coming from Gates or something.
Right now, yeah.
And we're now talking about really independent. We've spun them off. They're really independent. And I'd kind of like to see them operating and collaborating as a truly independent, for-profit manufacturing group, or whatever you want to call it.
Utility for the
So that is a
VLD.
difference.
And what is GDP?
That's the one we're going to hear about from
Okay,
Fiona.
the next
It's
one.
the Global Village Energy Project.
Okay.
And also, I don't know if this will come up before we adjourn tomorrow at the end of the week, but will we talk about opportunities to continue the collaboration among the nonprofits? You know, that doesn't need to be a formal
Certainly.
membership organization or anything.
And this is it.
We
You
need to
join
kind of-
together at this meeting and
It's like
that's
the
it.
bus. I mean,
Join.
if you miss it before lunch, that's it.
But don't you think we should kind of make a
Join.
commitment to
Uh,
sort of keep this going? And
That's what we do, yeah.
How about CSI? I mean,
Yeah, that's.
join CSI.
Okay.
Every week we are talking to each other.
Okay, so that,
And that's,
yeah, I wasn't really sure what, after this conference, because, you know,
I'm
Robin's.
happy with that.
The interesting point that we're at, and there's sort of this brilliance of the timing between Patrick's involvement and this conference and looking at Africa, and that's like, we're finishing the Haiti project. You know, Ray is like, check, done, big red done stamp on Haiti, and he gets to go back to NGSS and say, we did it. And we go to IEEE, we did it. We did what we set out to do. But now we're all looking at it going, fantastic, what's next? Well, now the weekly IEEE calls historically have been, okay, Haiti has been about 80% of the call, and then a little bit on Zambia and stuff like that. Now I think the calls are going to transition into, okay, what are we doing with Nigeria? What are we doing with Sudan? How are we building new relationships? Does that make sense? Sir?
Yeah.
Excellent.
I'm declaring it.
And- And Michelle, this is part of
Sorry.
our conversation yesterday, right?
Right, exactly.
Okay, and then here's if you form such a consortium, it's just, I call it a nonprofit with open source sharing goals. It enables us to have direct contact with you at a level that's nice and clean and above the specific special interests of any one group, which could vary a lot, could even be in competition, I don't care. I just want to be able to interact with people in a helpful way and have IEEE members feeling a continuing part of this growing organization, and that was one of the major goals that IEEE had. And, well, we already talked about this. I think you guys carry a lot more club if you present yourselves as a united.
Yes. And I want to speak to that. I mean, you heard me speak this morning, and you know that united front. It's important for us as Africans. It is absolutely important that we be able to not just do a Sudanese thing or Cameroonian thing, but that we are able to present a united front for the purposes that Paul has very adequately described. But more fundamental to that, if we can do that, we stand a good chance of leveraging that power to influence centers of power within here in Africa, and to extend our influence beyond power to all the other issues that Africa needs to deal with.
Yeah, in the past, any, kind of redundant or replication across Africa has been done by international NGOs. They may do the same solution in multiple countries, but what you're talking about is Africans yourself uniting around a common
Yes,
goal.
I mean, because like I said earlier, you have a Sunblazer project in Cameroon that doesn't know that a Sunblazer project exists in Nigeria.
Right.
Right. We
That doesn't
know.
help us much.
Yeah, no,
Yes.
yeah.
So we want to know that the Sunblazer project in Cameroon knows what is happening with the Sunblazer project in Nigeria, and knows what is happening with the Sunblazer project in the Sudan, and then think about what would happen if we are able to demonstrate that we have this mass of Sunblazer projects across the continent. Think about just how much
They're all
leverage-
managed by for-profits, on the continent,
Yeah.
in different countries. It's
And in
just
fact,
very powerful.
we can then begin to approach governments and say, look at, just like you're saying, Ray can go back to IEEE and say, look at what we have done. We as African actors, we as Africans can go to our leaders and say, look at what we have done in this area. Can you trust us for more in other areas where we haven't yet demonstrated capability?
Well, and this model also, it's really similar to our operators in Haiti. Think about each one of them have their own business. You can do lessons learned, you can do best practices, you can do, oh, I bet I know why that failed here, and we just need to apply what you guys are doing there, and there's so much benefit to that
Yeah.
connection, and not just have one in Cameroon and one in South Sudan. Maybe struggling with the same issue, or maybe one of you solved it and the other one would never know, so.
And the thing that I'm really trying to impress on you engineers here is for you to realize that your influence is going beyond engineering. You can influence because of the success that you do in this one area. You stand a good chance of influencing social policy, of influencing policy in all other areas where initially you thought that was out of my range. It's not, but because you've helped us as Africans succeed in one area, we can leverage that success and make a positive influence someplace else.
Well, IEEE's got lots of horsepower, and I think they're very weakly coupled to anything like we're talking about right now. But if they became, as an organization, more strongly coupled, that's going to be very influential.
Yeah.
That's all I had.
Very good.
Thank you.